Welcome to Scotch in the Balcony, 1st of June 2020. Just me today, sadly. Done late, haven't been well, so I did my best, half an hour. Alan will be back next week. You'll find us the usual places, and everybody stay safe. Well, hello all. How are we all doing? Hope you're all having a good night. It's late here because I found out living in lockdown with a wife and 3 kids and everything else. Literally 2 o'clock in the morning is the only time I get a few minutes to myself. So, cheers up. So we're on lockdown. Sadly, Al can't be here. Good news is Al is moving back to. He's got back to London. He's got out of Ireland, and he will be with us next week. And one of the things we were going to talk about was what are we going to miss? What do we think is some of the good things that are going to come out of lockdown? Because we're not going to go back to the way it was. We're going to go back to some sort of the same, because it is, people are people, and we'll see what happens. One of the things I am going to miss, I live out in the suburbs, is the sound is coming back. The sound of traffic and everything else. I can feel it coming back. I checked out my attic window just there about an hour ago, and I can hear traffic. It's very light. I can hear traffic, but it's coming back to the way it was. So maybe it'll be something less. Funny thing was, I read an article there the other day about the city centre, and there was people saying that they couldn't sleep because there's no traffic at night, and they live around a lively area, and at night time it'd be lively. Well, they were so used to the noise and hustle and bustle that actually that's what they fell asleep, that they're kind of white noise, and they were having trouble. So I suppose we're all slightly different, but that's just me. But I think the big thing that I have had, and I can see, is that just we've slowed down a little bit. Some of us anyway have slowed down. Most of us have slowed down. Have had to slow down. We're in lockdown, for fuck's sake. And I think that's something good, because only when you slow down you get a chance to think about stuff, figure stuff out. I've realised that before lockdown I was in the rat race for so long, but not getting anywhere. I hadn't become successful. I'd realised just, I was getting shit wrong continuously. I wasn't grasping things and understanding and interpreting stuff correctly. So in lockdown and this slowdown period, I'm starting to get a handle, starting to understand things a lot more, and I think hopefully we can all do that. Like the queuing of shops at the moment to slow people right down. Like, you've no choice but to kind of take a breather and take your time. And like Ferris Bueller said, sometimes you just have to stop and look around. I think this is what we're doing. I think a lot of us are finding out that I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. I may not be married or living with the person that I want to be. But I think the other thing we're also doing is we're finding out who the person is we're married to. I'm married. Our anniversary was there last month, 20 years together. And I suppose, like, with 3 kids, you're so busy just getting by, and you forget. I've probably learned more about who my wife is in the last week than I probably have in the last 10 years. Don't know if she can say that about me, hopefully, but I can definitely say that about myself in the last month, in the last couple of weeks anyway. So hopefully, like I said, we'll slow down, and hopefully some of us will make changes and decide, hey, we can do better, because we have to do better. Hopefully the new slogan may be something like "fuck the rat race." And maybe we can just take a bit of time to decide, well, do we really need this shit that we're really worried about, that we're hassling over? Like, I had to go to the shop today, get a bottle of wine, and the pubs, which are in lockdown at the moment, one of the pubs was open, And I think they were delivering food out of another door, but their main door was open. They were selling ice cream. Beautiful hot day, and I'm looking at the queue. Come here, we all love some ice cream. And I looked at the queue and I just went, nope, don't really want ice cream that badly. And I kind of, hopefully that's what we can look around and decide, do we really want that? And like I said, hopefully things will get better. I just kind of hope that maybe we can just all learn something new, and as a group, hopefully, we have a chance to learn some new skills maybe and become more self-sufficient. And I've taken up woodwork, something I've always wanted to do, but now I've got the time and I'm going to figure it out myself and learn. And some of my friends who have taken the tools back up, let's say, who used to do it years ago or even when they were teenagers, I've asked them to stop sending photographs, putting them up online, making the rest of us look really bad. So please, guys, stop doing it. Or at least put up the pictures of the bad ones. The ones our wives won't actually give a shit about. Well, like I said, maybe as a group we might not learn, but hopefully enough of us individually might take a break and learn. We can see every time you look on the news, something I've stopped actually doing lately. I've stopped reading the news as much. I've said before, I've took Facebook and Twitter off my phone. I haven't been on Twitter now in a while, or Facebook. I feel better for it. I'm starting to learn, a little bit more. I'm less stressed. Anyway, trying to figure out what's important. Like, I haven't been well for the last couple of weeks. That's why I haven't done anything. And it's been 2 weeks since I've been sitting here to bullshit. It's because I was sick. Not COVID related, but I felt like shit all the same. I was feeling down. Wasn't doing my exercises, my arthritis, my back sore. I get basically no sleep. So I decided, I just need to get a night's sleep because I was basically living on caffeine. Took a sleeping tablet, half a sleeping tablet. And that's where I learned this week, sleeping tablets are not for me. I got 9 hours sleep straight, which for me, that's about 6 more than I usually get. But the next 2 days are just a bit of a blur. All I can tell you that when I started to come through Thursday night, Friday morning, no one in the house was talking to me. I'm not blaming the sleeping tablets now. I'm not the easiest person to live with in the best of times, let alone now, to be honest. But it was probably Friday before I felt okay. Still tired, but at least my brain felt better than I had the last couple of days. So, like I said, I guess I can add sleeping tablets to my list of stuff, which doesn't do me any good up there with tequila. So, like I said, but as I get older, that list does get longer and longer. So, also, so the movie of the week. I spent the last 2 weeks, man. I do watch a lot of movies every week, and as you know or don't know, I hate lists. I hate top 10s and lists of movies. Watch these before you die. So every episode, I'll give you something that I've watched the last couple of weeks. So my pick, The Notebook. Yes, I said it, The Notebook. Now, say I was surprised would be an understatement. This was on my list, by the way, of films I hadn't seen. It's kind of one of my, what I'm doing in the lockdown, I have a list of movies that I should have seen for someone who loves movies. But and this week's one was The Notebook. Kind of got it from my wife a long time ago, and I was going to watch it. But like that, you kind of read the reviews, and I read stuff, and and it's kind of like they fell into two categories. It was brilliant or complete and utter crap. And this was made back in 2004, so it's only 16 years ago. And it's basically a romance drama. Boy sees girl, boy falls in love at first sight, boy dangles off the top of a Ferris wheel until girl agrees to go on a date, so on. It's a love story. Shamelessly corny and unabashed, sentimental, at times melodramatic and cliched, but that's what it is. It's a love story, but that's what I love about it. In my opinion, it doesn't try and be anything else but that. It's a mushy, sentimental, straight to the heart love story. And it hit me, got me at the end. not just at the end, but I also think maybe being slightly older, I'm in my mid-40s now, so maybe when it came out in 2004, and because now I'm probably in between the two age groups because of the two couples in the film, it allowed me to relate more with the characters a bit more. And especially now compared to 14 years ago, or 16 years ago, I should say. I know I have 3 kids and daughters of my own, so again, I can relate a little bit more, like I said, than if I'd seen this film earlier in life. My wife, we kind of had a bit of a laugh yesterday about it, because I watched it on Friday on my own, because I usually do that so I can actually get into a film and devil's in the detail and the little bits and everything. Don't like watching movies where people talk most of the time. So, but myself and my wife are having a bit of a laugh, about it and all, because she loves it. And she was telling me that she knows I'd be like James Garner character, but if the roles were reversed, we're kind of laughing that she wouldn't have a notebook, but she'd have a large pillow for me. She didn't disagree, but hey, it is what it is. But like I said, in the film, we have boy meets girl, summer love. She comes from a very well-off family. He works in a mill. But the main the kind, she feels herself. She feels more with him than with anyone else, and so on, so on. Like I said, I'm not going to, it is what, like I said, it's straightforward, but done, in my opinion, though shamelessly corny, as I said before. It's brilliant. The only issue I had, because I do have it on DVD, was the best romance since Titanic. Now, I fucking hated Titanic. And the funny thing is, I watched the second half of it. I walked in and watched the second half of it today with my wife, and my daughter's 14. And if you ask her about Titanic, the first thing she'll say, what she says, she just laughs and just goes, the two of them could have fitted on the door. Yeah, totally agree with her. Didn't like the film, even though I'm a Kate Winslet fan and a Leo fan, obviously Billy Zane fan, who couldn't be. Just didn't like the movie, so I've actually sellotaped over that bit on the DVD since I've watched the film, because I do like the film so much. Notebook, that is. So like I said, in the film, but the film is basically also it's an elderly man played by James Garner, and he's reading the couple story to an old woman who has dementia, and it's in a nursing home. Can't remember the woman's name, but I think it was the director's mother. But it's actually it's the two of them that really bring it home, really pulls the heartstrings. Basically, open the tear ducts, got me going at the end. And even though this movie is not a true story, even though it's the writer says it was based. The idea was based on, I think, his ex-wife's grandparents, maybe. I'm not sure. Nicholas Sparks, the guy who wrote it. It still is fiction, and that's the thing I like saying about these films. They're not real. They're fiction. And so this allows us to dream of things, of working out and being right, and hope. Brings us hope and love, and that's what these films are for. To me, for me personally, that's all they are for. It's just, a bit of emotion, a bit of love, a bit of hope. But we also know, hey, in the real world, it's not always the case. Stories like this are, they're the exception to the rule, because life gets in the way. Life is more complicated. But it doesn't mean they don't have a place. It doesn't mean we don't need these stories. We do. And when I see some of the stuff written about it, and a lot of it was, not a lot of it, but some of it was about, in real life she wouldn't do this and she would have done that. And I says, who gives a fuck? Just enjoy the story for what it is and, what it's trying to do. And so those people, as I said before, don't be listening to those people. So I'd recommend get into it. Not for everybody, but if you do get into it, it's great. Another thing that kind of came true to me that I noticed kind of the second time I watched it, and it was one of the things my wife was having my wife talking about today about lockdown, is that during this lockdown, as I said, we've time to think. And again, my wife was saying how she's thinking about different things than she's ever done because, we've had the time. But the thing I noticed was when I was watching the second half of the movie with my wife and my daughter, who I might have mentioned before are talkers, and who like to talk about films during the film. I have a bit of an issue with that, but I love her dearly, so I'm not going to divorce her over it. Not just yet, anyway. But I did notice how some things she saw differently to me. And it was something that kind of reminded me of a discussion we had earlier today that how can I see things, the same as her? Because we're different. We're all different. For starters, she's a woman, obviously, and I'm a man. So we've had, our lives have been different. We might have been together for the last 20 years, but so she would see things slightly different. Some of the things she was saying, how she saw the Ryan Gosling character, for example, and I was like, no, that's not why he did that. That's not, But I had to stop myself because it's not really that important. But it was just remembering that going forward, that just because I'm sitting, just because I'm with my wife for 20 years doesn't mean we see things the same. It's not possible. No two people can see everything the same. I think maybe that's something that we should all try and remember. But the other thing that I kind of took from it was in the story, after the summer love, she went off into the big bad world. Now, so did he at one stage because he was in the war and stuff. But he came back. He was still home. Home was South Carolina. Home was where where he met her. And he had to work through that. And, it is what it is, but just how his attitude towards it was different to hers. How she went off into the world. She met someone else. Other things happened. She met someone else, got engaged. He kind of met someone else, but it was more for company than anything else. It wasn't true love, and that's shown. And I just thought maybe that was something that we're in lockdown, that he gets to work through something and she kind of gets to kind of run away a little bit from it. And it's only when she gets pulled back into it that now she has to face up to it. And it's just something that I thought kind of reflected kind of what's going on at the moment in lockdown. We're all having to face up to certain things that if we were in the rat race and we just kept going, we may not have ever had to deal with. Not always. Not all. Sometimes it's a good thing not to face up to it. The other thing that also happened in it, which I kind of related a little bit and made me think, was her mother. So in it, the mother's obviously trying to keep them apart, but she's not doing it out of any malice. She's trying to do it because she thinks that's what's best for her daughter. Now, as a parent, we're always doing that. But then she kind of broke down and got to, and for the first time was honest about it, I suppose. And the advice that you gave her wasn't, when you see it, I don't want to spoil it, but kind of showed her that she had a similar decision to make at one time. And without going into too much detail, but did explain, I thought, the decision that she had to make. And instead of telling her what to do, just hopes that she picks right. Which, as a parent, that's all we can do. We can just hope that our kids, are able to make the right decisions, and they do make the right decisions so much, as much as we want them, we ourselves. And that kind of thing, I'll be honest, man, that kind of keeps me awake at time anyway. It keeps me awake, how do I teach my kids the ability to make the right decisions? Especially, I suppose, like the mother, I haven't always made the right decisions. I'm not going to lie, with my wife I have, but most of the other decisions, I think I'm not so sure. And then again, how do we define or even know which ones are right or wrong? Because we don't know what it's going to lead on to. So, yeah, hopefully I got the big ones right, but we don't know. And that's it. And the thing is, we don't know. We can't know. I suppose all we can do is what we think is best, I guess. Well, I mean, that's what I kind of took out of that. Like I said, we have these movies to transport ourselves, into a dimension where we can just take a break, and maybe we can know that these things, this is how they turn out, and maybe we can take something from that, or maybe we shouldn't. I don't know. Like I said, I would recommend it. It's a beautiful movie. Not for everybody, as no film is, but I would recommend it very, very highly as a movie to see. Now, this other one, I'm not saying this is one to definitely have to see, but I would recommend it. And it's Miles Ahead by Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle directed its directorial debut, and he starred in it. And it's a biop of Miles Davis, except it's not really a biop of Miles Davis. I don't know a lot about Miles Davis. I know who he is. We all know who he is. And what I sometimes do in films like this, and I did it in this, when I get into the film and I get the rhythm and I'm enjoying it, like 10 or 15 minutes in, when I can just sense it, I can just take a break here, and I'll Google it and just see how real or close the film is. Whether it's a page by page biop or whether it's something totally different, or it's, I'm glad to tell you this is not conventional, to say the least. From what I read, and if I'm wrong, please let me know. From what I read, what they decided to do was because they couldn't, decide even what part of his life to do, page by page, or to do some sort of cradle to grave kind of thing. Because this is really how do you? Because I think some people say, who know better than me, obviously, the guy changed music 4 or 5 times in his career, which is 4 or 5 times more than most. So I just thought this was a great idea, and this is why I mentioned it. So it's not your, like I said, it's not straightforward. So what they decided to do was they came up, they picked the time, I think in the 70s when he didn't make music, and decided to come up with, well, what kind of film, if Miles Davis was in, what kind of film would he like to be in? Not about him, but would he be in? And I got from that was that maybe we're getting a little bit of a feel of what the guy was like, what he went through, without pointing the finger at any exact facts or things, which sometimes you can get bogged down on, and there can be discussions. So they didn't do that, and I just thought that was a really interesting take. And what it led to was this kind of chase movie, nearly, where we get the kind of, possibly we get an insight maybe into the kind of tortured genius that the guy was. And that's, and that's something that I think we can say goes hand in hand is tortured and genius. There are 2 films that we're going to talk about today, but I want to talk about them when Alan's back next week. And in it, it's the 2 documentaries actually. One of the guys in it, he says, happy people don't do great things, and it's, it's true to a certain point. Like. And there is a kind of a difference between this and obviously The Notebook, because in The Notebook, there's a line in The Notebook, I don't know if it's from the book as well or not, where he says, "I'm nothing special. I'm just a common man with common thoughts and common life. My name will soon be forgotten, blah, blah, but in one respect, I succeed as gloriously as anyone who's ever lived, and that's to love another with all my heart and soul." Okay, and to me, this has always been enough. Something along those lines. And whereas tortured genius as well, that's not enough for them, because that's what they are. They're tortured genius. There's more in them, and that's something else I think that this film may be trying to get across, that whole idea, because that's what the chase, what he's doing, he's chasing his music, he's chasing, well, who's going to be the person who defines me? It should be me. And I think that's something we can all sort of relate to on some level. Definitely not on the level of Miles Davis, but on our own level in life about who defines us and what we are, and that kind of thing. So within that kind of chase story, which I kind of really liked, and Don Cheadle's Miles Davis and his sidekick as such, played by Hugh McGregor, who was obviously this isn't real, so he's just a reporter for Rolling Stone. That's it, Rolling Stone. But it's not a real one, it's just a made up. But I kind of wonder how much of that story, maybe some similar things happened. But like I said, it was a great story, and I was just can't be very entertained. But during it, I had flashbacks, I think, back probably to the 60s, in relation to his wife, Frances. That's it, Frances. And he gives us a little bit of an insight maybe into some of the, little bit more real facts and stuff about the man and stuff. But again, gives you a feeling of the genius that he was. And like I said, very interesting, very enjoyable. There was a lovely line in it. I don't know if he actually said it, but I hope he did, where he was being interviewed and he was asked, you haven't made music in 5 years, and his reply eventually was, I had nothing to say. Kind of, when I heard that, I kind of wished more musicians and singers had that attitude, especially lately. So I've just realised it's 2:30. I've rabbited on a little bit. Like I said, Ala's back next week, where we will have more to talk about. I said I'm still a little bit under the weather, getting better. And come here, have a good time and stay safe. And be careful with those sleeping tablets.